The tour bus hummed steadily along Interstate 40, cutting through the darkness of rural Tennessee. Inside, Reba McEntire sat in the small lounge area, her phone pressed against her ear as she listened to the voicemail Rex had left 3 hours earlier. His voice sounded tired, distant. "Hey, Red. I know you're probably busy with sound check. Just wanted to say good luck tonight. I'll try to catch the live stream if the meeting doesn't run late. Love you." She replayed it twice before setting the phone down on the table. The bus hit a bump, and her untouched coffee sloshed in its cup. Outside the window, the lights of Memphis faded into the rear view, replaced by the empty stretches of highway that had become her constant companion over the past 6 months. Jennifer Hayes, her manager of 15 years, emerged from the front cabin with her laptop tucked under one arm. At 48, Jennifer had the sharp efficiency of someone who'd spent decades navigating the Nashville music industry. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and even at midnight, she looked ready for a board meeting. "Can't sleep?" Jennifer asked, sliding into the booth across from Reba. "Lost the habit somewhere between Atlanta and Little Rock," Reba replied, managing a small smile. "What's your excuse?" "Emails from the label. They want to extend the tour another 6 weeks. 12 more cities, including 2 sold-out nights at Madison Square Garden." Jennifer paused, studying Reba's face. "It's a huge opportunity. The kind artists dream about." Reba looked down at her hands, at the wedding ring that had sat on her finger for 3 years now. When would it start? Late January through March. You'd have 3 weeks home for the holidays, then back on the road. Jennifer's voice softened. "I told them I'd run it by you first. No pressure." The irony wasn't lost on Reba. No pressure in an industry built entirely on pressure. On the expectation that you'd sacrifice everything for your art, for your fans, for the next big opportunity. She'd built her entire career on saying yes to those opportunities, on being the woman who never turned down a chance to perform. "Can I think about it?" Reba asked. "Of course. They need an answer by next Friday." Jennifer closed her laptop. "How's Rex doing? I haven't seen him at a show in a while." "He's good. Busy with his own projects. You know how it is." The words came out automatically, the practiced response she'd given dozens of times over the past few months. But saying them to Jennifer felt different. Jennifer had been there through Reba's divorce, through the rebuilding of her career, through the early days with Rex, when everything felt possible and new. Jennifer didn't push, but her silence spoke volumes. She stood up, placed a gentle hand on Reba's shoulder. "Get some rest. We hit Nashville at 7, and Daniel wants to run through the new arrangement before the show." After Jennifer retreated to her bunk, Reba picked up her phone again. She scrolled through her text messages with Rex, noting the increasing gaps between conversations. 3 days since their last real exchange. Before that, 5 days. The messages had become functional. Running late. Don't wait up. Talk tomorrow. She opened a new message, her thumbs hovering over the keyboard. What could she say that wouldn't sound like an excuse or an apology? What words could bridge the distance that had grown between them, mile by mile, show by show? The cursor blinked in the empty text box. Finally, she typed, "Missing you tonight. Can we talk tomorrow?" Really talk? She hit send before she could second-guess herself, then stared at the screen, waiting for the 3 dots that would indicate he was typing back. They never came. The Grand Ole Opry House stood like a temple in the Nashville dawn, its brick facade glowing amber under the parking lot lights. Reba had performed here more than 100 times, but the sight of it still stirred something in her chest, a mixture of reverence and responsibility. This was sacred ground in country music, and tonight's performance would be broadcast live to millions. Daniel Crawford met her at the stage door, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. At 52, Daniel had produced some of Reba's biggest hits, and his salt and pepper beard had become a fixture in Nashville recording studios. He handed her one of the cups without a word, understanding that she needed the caffeine more than conversation. "Morning, boss," he said finally, falling into step beside her as they walked through the empty corridors. "Sleep well?" "Define well," Reba replied, taking a long sip. The coffee was perfect. Black, strong, exactly how she liked it. They emerged onto the stage, where the lighting crew was already at work, adjusting spots and testing levels. The empty seats stretched out before them, row upon row of burgundy velvet that would soon be filled with fans who'd traveled from across the country to be here. "I reworked the bridge on 'Consider Me Gone,'" Daniel said, pulling out his tablet to show her the new arrangement. "Added a key change that I think will give you more room to really let loose on the final chorus." Reba studied the music, humming the melody under her breath. It was good. Better than good. Daniel had an instinct for knowing exactly what a song needed, what would push it from good to unforgettable. "Can we run through it?" she asked. "That's why we're here early." Daniel signaled to the band members who were filtering in, setting up their instruments with the easy familiarity of musicians who'd played together for years. Bobby Carlson, her lead guitarist, gave her a wave from across the stage. At 35, Bobby had been with her for nearly a decade, and his technical skill was matched only by his easygoing personality. Next to him, Rachel Montgomery settled behind the keyboards, her long dark hair already pulled back for the long day ahead. They ran through the song twice, working out the kinks in the new arrangement. Reba lost herself in the music, in the way her voice could climb and soar and break in all the right places. For those 10 minutes, nothing else existed. Not the tour extension, not the unanswered text message, not the hollow feeling that had taken up residence in her chest. When they finished, Daniel nodded approvingly. "That's the one. That's the version we'll use tonight." "It feels right," Reba agreed, her voice slightly hoarse from the effort. She pulled out her water bottle, taking a long drink. Jennifer appeared from the wings, phone in hand as always. "Good morning, sunshine. We've got radio interviews at noon, meet and greet at 4, sound check at 5:30, and showtime at 8. Costume wants to see you at 10 to finalize tonight's outfit." Reba felt the familiar weight settle over her shoulders. The weight of being Reba McEntire, country music icon, rather than just Reba, a woman trying to figure out how to save her marriage. "Any word from the label?" she asked. "They can wait until next Friday, like I told them," Jennifer said firmly. "Today, you focus on giving these fans the show of their lives." As the morning progressed, Reba moved through her obligations with practiced ease. The radio interviews were friendly, the questions predictable. Yes, she was thrilled to be back at the Opry. Yes, the tour had been incredible. Yes, she was already thinking about new music for next year. No one asked if she was happy. No one asked if the success felt hollow without someone to share it with. By noon, she was back in her dressing room, the door closed against the bustling energy of the venue. She checked her phone. Still nothing from Rex. She dialed his number, listening to it ring once, twice, 3 times before going to voicemail. "Hey, it's me. I know you're probably in meetings. She paused, searching for words. "I just wanted to hear your voice. Call me when you can. I love you." She hung up and stared at herself in the mirror. At 59, she'd maintained the energy and presence that had made her a star. But today, she looked tired. Not physically tired. Makeup and lighting could fix that. But tired in a way that went deeper, into places no amount of concealer could reach. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Bobby Carlson poked his head inside. "Hey, Reba, got a minute?" "Sure, come on in." She gestured to the couch against the wall. Bobby closed the door behind him, his usual easy smile replaced by concern. "Look, I don't mean to overstep, but you've seemed off lately. Is everything okay?" Reba considered deflecting, giving him the same surface-level answer she'd been giving everyone. But Bobby had been loyal, had become more than just a band member over the years. He'd earned honesty. "I'm tired, Bobby. Tired in a way that a day off won't fix." She sat down beside him. "You ever feel like you're running so fast towards something that you don't notice you've left important things behind?" Bobby nodded slowly. "I left my marriage behind that way. Spent so much time on the road that when I finally came home, there wasn't anything to come home to. She'd built a whole life without me. How did you know it was over? When I realized I was relieved to be on tour. When home felt like the obligation and the road felt like the escape." He met her eyes. "Is that where you are?" "No," Reba said quickly. "No, that's not it at all. I love Rex. I love coming home to him. That's the problem. I haven't been doing it enough. And I can feel him pulling away, building walls to protect himself from always being second to my career. So what are you going to do about it?" The question hung in the air between them. What was she going to do about it? Accept the tour extension and watch her marriage crumble? Turn down the opportunity and possibly resent Rex for it? There had to be a third option, but she couldn't see it yet. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I need to figure it out before it's too late." Bobby stood up, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "For what it's worth, I've seen you handle impossible situations your whole career. You'll figure this out too." He paused at the door. "And Reba, whatever you decide, your real fans will understand. We want you to be happy, not just successful." After he left, Reba sat alone with those words. Happy, not just successful. When had those two things become mutually exclusive in her mind? Her phone buzzed. Finally, a text from Rex. "Sorry, been in back-to-back meetings all day. Things are crazy here. Break a leg tonight. We'll talk soon." We'll talk soon. The same promise they'd been making to each other for months, always postponing the real conversation for a more convenient time that never seemed to arrive. Reba closed her eyes and made a decision. Tonight, after the show, she would drive home instead of back to the tour bus. She would sit down with Rex, face to face, and they would have the conversation they'd been avoiding. She would make him understand that he mattered more than any tour, any opportunity, any standing ovation from strangers. She typed back, "I'm coming home tonight. Wait up for me. This is important." This time, the 3 dots appeared almost immediately. "Okay, I'll be here." It wasn't much, but it was a start. The meet and greet before the show was a blur of smiling faces and heartfelt stories. Reba posed for photos, signed albums, and listened as fans told her how her music had gotten them through divorces, illness, loss. It was humbling and exhausting in equal measure. A young woman, maybe 25, with tears in her eyes, gripped Reba's hand. "Your songs taught me that I could be strong on my own," she said, "that I didn't need anyone to complete me." Reba smiled and thanked her, but the words echoed uncomfortably. Yes, she'd built a career on anthems of female independence and strength, but she'd also learned that being strong didn't mean being alone, that needing someone wasn't weakness. It was human. By the time she made it back to her dressing room for final preparations, her feet ached and her face hurt from smiling. The costume team had laid out her outfit for the evening. A stunning burgundy dress with strategic sparkles that would catch the stage lights perfectly. As she changed, she caught sight of a framed photo on her dressing table. It was from her wedding to Rex, both of them laughing at something outside the camera's frame, pure joy radiating from their faces. When had that joy started to fade? When had duty started to replace desire? Jennifer appeared in the doorway. 15 minutes to showtime. How are you feeling? Ready, Reba said. And she meant it. Not just ready to perform, but ready to make changes. Ready to stop letting her life happen to her and start actively shaping it into what she wanted it to be. She took one last look in the mirror, adjusting her earrings. The woman looking back at her was Reba McEntire, country music legend, multiple Grammy winner, icon. But she was also just Reba, a woman who missed her husband and was tired of pretending that success could fill every empty space in her heart. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget," she said to Jennifer. As she walked toward the stage, she could hear the crowd's energy building, could feel the anticipation humming through the walls. In 20 minutes, she would step into those lights and become the Reba they all expected. But tonight, for the first time in months, she knew that when the lights went down, she was going home to the man she loved. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to save what they'd built together. The roar of the crowd washed over Reba like a wave as she stepped onto the Grand Ole Opry stage. 8,000 people on their feet, their applause creating a sound that seemed to vibrate through her bones. The stage lights were hot and bright, transforming the space into its own universe where only the music and the moment mattered. She grabbed the microphone from its stand, feeling its familiar weight in her hand. "Nashville," she called out, her voice cutting through the noise. "It's good to be home." The crowd erupted again. Reba launched into her opening number, a high-energy rendition of Fancy that had the entire venue singing along. Her body moved on autopilot, years of performance experience guiding her through the choreography, while her mind operated on a different level entirely. From the stage, she could see individual faces in the front rows. A teenage girl crying happy tears. An elderly couple holding hands, mouthing every word. A man who looked about Rex's age, watching his wife dance with pure adoration in his eyes. That last image caught in Reba's chest like a fishhook. She transitioned into the next song, then the next, working through her set list with professional precision. Between numbers, she bantered with the audience, telling stories about recording sessions and tour mishaps. They laughed in all the right places, hung on every word. This was the part she'd always loved. The connection, the exchange of energy between performer and audience. But tonight, something felt different. As she sang about heartbreak and resilience, independence and strength, she found herself thinking about the messages those songs had sent over the years. Had she convinced herself that needing someone was weakness? That the only way to be a strong woman was to be self-sufficient to the point of isolation? Halfway through the set, she paused to take a drink of water. The crowd settled into an expectant silence. "You know," she said, her voice more contemplative than usual, "I've been doing this for a long time. Longer than some of you have been alive." Gentle laughter rippled through the audience. "And one thing I've learned is that songs can tell you truths you're not ready to hear in regular conversation." She perched on the stool that Bobby had brought out, guitar in hand. "This next one is called Consider Me Gone. It's about knowing when to walk away from something that's not serving you anymore. But tonight, as I was running through it earlier, I realized something." She paused, the silence heavy with attention. "Sometimes we're so good at walking away that we forget how to stay, how to fight for what matters." The first notes of the song floated out across the venue, Daniel's new arrangement giving it a haunting quality. Reba closed her eyes and sang. But this time the lyrics felt different in her mouth. They weren't about empowerment. They were about loss, about the price of pride and the cost of self-protection. When she reached the bridge, the new key change Daniel had added, she let her voice soar into the higher register. The emotion that poured out wasn't just performance. It was real, raw, dredged up from the places she'd been carefully avoiding for months. The final notes faded into silence. For a moment, no one moved. Then the applause came, louder than before, mixed with the sound of people crying. Reba opened her eyes to find her own vision blurred with tears. She hadn't realized she was crying. She stood up quickly, wiping her face. "Well," she said with a shaky laugh, "that was more honest than I planned." The audience laughed with her, a release of tension. During the brief intermission that followed, Reba retreated backstage to regroup. Jennifer was waiting with water and a knowing look. "That was beautiful," Jennifer said, and completely off script. "I know, I'm sorry, don't apologize. That's the kind of moment people will remember forever." Jennifer handed her the water bottle. "But are you okay? That didn't feel like a performance." Reba took a long drink, buying herself time to formulate an answer. "I'm working through some things. Using the music to process, I guess." Before Jennifer could respond, Rachel Montgomery appeared around the corner, her keyboard player's instincts picking up on the emotional shift. "Reba, that was incredible. I've never heard you sing that song with so much—" She searched for the word. "Vulnerability." "Thanks, Rachel. I felt it too." Reba looked between the two women, both of whom had been with her through various phases of her career and life. "Can I ask you both something? How do you do it? Balance the career with everything else?" Rachel and Jennifer exchanged glances. Rachel spoke first. "I don't always do it well. My kids are teenagers now, and sometimes I feel like I missed so much of their childhood chasing this dream. But I try to be present when I'm home. Really present. Not just physically there while mentally still on the road." Jennifer nodded. "I gave up on marriage years ago. Decided the career was enough for me. But I won't lie. There are nights when that choice feels lonelier than I'd like to admit." She met Reba's eyes. "Is this about Rex? It's about figuring out what I want my life to look like, not just my career." Reba set down the water bottle. "I've spent so long being what everyone else needed me to be. What the label wanted, what the fans expected, what the industry demanded. And somewhere along the way, I stopped asking myself what I actually wanted." "What do you want?" Rachel asked gently. The question should have been simple. Instead, it felt massive, loaded with implications and consequences. Reba thought about Rex, about the photo in her dressing room, about the text message he'd sent promising to wait up for her. "I want both," she said finally. "I want the career, and the music, and the connection with fans. But I also want a life off stage, a real relationship with someone I love. And I'm starting to realize that I can't have both if I keep giving 100% of myself to one and expecting the other to survive on whatever's left over." Jennifer's expression softened. "That's why you're hesitating about the tour extension." It wasn't a question, but Reba nodded anyway. 12 more weeks on the road. 12 more weeks of Rex building his life around my absence. At some point, he's going to stop missing me and start getting used to being alone. "Or," Rachel suggested quietly, "you could bring him with you. Make the tour something you do together, instead of something that separates you." The idea was so simple it almost felt revolutionary. Reba had always kept her professional life separate from her personal life, maintaining boundaries that she'd thought were necessary for both to thrive. But maybe those boundaries had become walls. "He has his own career," Reba said, "his own projects and obligations." "Does he have anything more important than saving his marriage?" Jennifer asked bluntly. "Because that's where you are, Reba. I've been watching you two grow apart for months, and I've been waiting for one of you to wake up and do something about it." The 5-minute warning call echoed through the backstage area. Reba stood up, straightening her dress and checking her makeup in the mirror. She looked the same as she had before intermission. But something inside had shifted, crystallized. "After tonight," she said, "I'm taking time off. Real time, not just a week here and there. I need to figure this out with Rex before I make any decisions about extending the tour." Jennifer smiled. "I'll tell the label." Reba walked back toward the stage, her heels clicking against the concrete floor. She could hear the audience's anticipation, could feel the energy building for the second half of the show. But this time, as she prepared to step back into the lights, she wasn't thinking about them. She was thinking about Rex, about the conversation they would have in a few hours, about the possibility of rebuilding what they'd let erode. The second half of the show had a different energy. Reba performed with the same technical excellence, but there was something looser about her, more free. Between songs, she shared more personal stories about falling in love, about the challenges of maintaining relationships in the public eye, about the importance of prioritizing what truly mattered. "I've been thinking a lot lately about what success really means," she told the audience during a quiet moment. "We measure it in album sales and awards and sold-out shows. But the real measure of a successful life isn't how many strangers know your name. It's whether the people you love know your heart." The crowd was silent, hanging on her words. Reba could see people nodding, see couples reaching for each other's hands. "I've got someone in my life," she continued, "who knows my heart better than anyone, who sees past the rhinestones and the spotlights to the woman underneath. And lately, I haven't been giving him the time and attention he deserves. So after tonight, I'm going to do something I should have done months ago. I'm going to put him first." The applause that followed was different, warmer, more personal. They weren't just applauding her as a performer. They were applauding her as a human being making human choices. Reba finished the set with "The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia," bringing the energy back up for a rousing finale. As the final notes rang out and the crowd rose to its feet, she felt something release in her chest. A weight she'd been carrying without realizing it, finally lifting. She took her bows, thanking the band and waving to the audience. But as she walked off stage, her mind was already on the highway, on the drive home, on the conversation that would determine the shape of her future. Bobby caught her in the wings, pulling her into a quick hug. "That was something special," he said. "Whatever you're going through, it's making you even more real up there." "Thanks, Bobby. For earlier, too. For asking the hard questions." Daniel was next, his producer's mind already analyzing the performance. "We should record tonight's version of Consider Me Gone. That arrangement, that emotion, that's the definitive version right there." "Maybe," Reba said. "Let me get through tonight first. Then we'll talk about recordings." Jennifer appeared with her bag and keys. "Your car's out back. I'll handle the after-show meet and greet. You go home." Reba hugged her manager, grateful for the years of friendship and understanding. "Thank you. For everything." "Just invite me to the second wedding," Jennifer said with a wink. "Or whatever celebration happens when you two figure this out." As Reba walked toward the exit, she pulled out her phone and sent Rex a quick text. "Show's over. On my way home. Don't fall asleep." His response came almost immediately. "I'll put on coffee. Drive safe." The Nashville night was cool and clear as Reba climbed into her car. Through the venue's walls, she could hear the crowd still applauding, calling for an encore she wouldn't give. For the first time in her career, she was choosing to leave the stage while they still wanted more. But this time, she was leaving for something more important than any encore. She was leaving to save her marriage, to have the conversation that could change everything, to finally be as brave in her personal life as she'd always been on stage. As she pulled out of the parking lot, Reba caught one last glimpse of the Grand Ole Opry in her rearview mirror. The building stood solid and unchanging, a monument to country music history. but she was driving away from it, toward something uncertain and scary and absolutely necessary. The highway stretched out before her, dark and mostly empty at this late hour. Reba turned up the radio, letting someone else's song fill the silence, and pointed her car toward home. The house was quiet when Reba pulled into the driveway, but every light was on, casting warm yellow squares across the lawn. Rex's truck sat in its usual spot, and she could see movement through the kitchen window. He was there, waiting, just as he'd promised. Reba sat in her car for a moment, engine off, gathering her courage. This conversation felt bigger than any performance she'd ever given, more important than any award she'd ever won. Through the windshield, she could see Rex moving around the kitchen, probably preparing the coffee he'd mentioned. Even from this distance, even through glass and darkness, the sight of him made her heart ache with a mixture of love and regret. She grabbed her bag and walked to the door, her heels clicking against the stone pathway. Before she could reach for her keys, the door opened. Rex stood there, backlit by the hallway light. And for a moment, they just looked at each other. At 65, Rex Lynn still had the presence that had first attracted her. Tall and solid, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. But he wasn't smiling now. His expression was careful, guarded in a way that broke her heart a little more. "Hey," he said simply. "Hey yourself." Reba stepped inside, and Rex closed the door behind her. The house smelled like coffee, and the lavender candles she loved. Home smells. Safe smells. Smells she realized she'd been missing more than she'd admitted. "Coffee's in the kitchen," Rex said, leading the way. "I made decaf. Figured we'd be up late either way. No need to make it worse." They settled at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd shared countless meals and conversations over the past 3 years. Reba wrapped her hands around her mug, feeling its warmth seep into her palms. Rex sat across from her, his own coffee untouched. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Rex broke it. "So," he said, "what's important enough to bring you home at midnight instead of staying on the tour bus?" There was no accusation in his voice, just tired resignation. That hurt worse than anger would have. "Us," Reba said. "We're important enough. And I've been treating us like an afterthought. And I'm sorry." Rex's jaw tightened. "I'm not looking for apologies, Red. I knew what I was signing up for when I married you. I knew the career came with demands and obligations. That doesn't make it right. And it doesn't mean I can just expect you to keep accepting whatever scraps of time I have left over." Reba set down her mug and reached across the table, placing her hand over his. He didn't pull away, but he didn't return the pressure either. "Rex, I'm losing you. I can feel it. And I don't know how to stop it from happening." "You're not losing me," Rex said quietly. "I'm right here. I've been right here the whole time. The question is, where have you been?" The words hit like a physical blow. Reba pulled her hand back, pressing it against her chest. "That's not fair, isn't it?" Rex finally met her eyes, and she could see the hurt he'd been hiding. "When's the last time we had dinner together? Not a quick meal between your sound check and my conference call? An actual dinner where we sat and talked and connected?" Reba opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. She couldn't remember. The realization sat like a stone in her stomach. 2 months, Rex supplied. 2 months ago, on your day off in Denver. You flew home for 36 hours, and we spent most of it sleeping because you were exhausted. He picked up his coffee, stared into it like it held answers. "I'm not blaming you for being tired. I'm not even blaming you for the tour. But I am telling you that this isn't sustainable. Not for me." "What are you saying?" Reba's voice came out smaller than she intended. "I'm saying that I love you. I have loved you from the moment we met, and that hasn't changed. But love isn't enough if we're not actually building a life together. And right now, you're building a career and I'm just waiting for you to have time for me." Tears spilled down Reba's cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. The label wants to extend the tour. 12 more weeks, through March. Rex's expression didn't change. "And what do you want to do?" "I want to say no. I want to come home and spend time with you and remember what it feels like to be a wife instead of just a performer." The words came out in a rush. "But I'm scared. Scared that if I turn this down, I'll regret it. Scared that if I say yes, I'll lose you. Scared that no matter what I choose, I'll end up resenting someone, either the label for asking or you for making me choose." "I'm not making you choose, Red. I've never asked you to choose between me and your career." Rex reached across the table now, taking both her hands in his. "But I am asking you to figure out what you actually want. Not what you think you should want. Not what the industry expects. Not what will make the best headlines. What do you, Reba McEntire the woman, want your life to look like?" It was the same question Rachel had asked earlier, and it still felt overwhelming. Reba took a shaky breath. "I want to wake up next to you and not feel guilty about it. I want to have breakfast together and read the paper and waste time doing nothing important. I want to go to bed at night and talk about our days instead of just collapsing into sleep. I want—" She stopped, struggling to articulate the longing that had been building in her chest for months. "I want to feel like I'm living my life instead of just performing it." Rex's expression softened. "Then do that. Come home." "It's not that simple. I have contracts and obligations, people counting on me." "I know. And I'm not suggesting you abandon everything tomorrow. But you could start making different choices. Start saying no to things that don't serve you. Start prioritizing your actual life over your public image." He squeezed her hands. "I fell in love with Reba, not the queen of country music. I don't need the awards and the sold-out shows. I just need you. Present. Engaged. Here. What if I can't do both?" The question she'd been avoiding finally voiced. "What if trying to balance it all just means doing everything halfway? Then you figure out what matters most, and you do that all the way." Rex's voice was gentle but firm. "But you can't keep trying to be everything to everyone. Something's got to give. And I'm terrified it's going to be us." Reba stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, their backyard stretched into darkness, the pool's surface reflecting the house lights like a mirror. She'd bought this house imagining the life they'd build here. Dinner parties and quiet mornings, maybe grandchildren someday splashing in that pool. When had those dreams gotten buried under tour schedules and recording sessions? "I don't know how to do this," she admitted, her back still to Rex. "I've been Reba McEntire, country star, for so long that I don't know how to just be Reba anymore. What if I step back and discover there's nothing underneath? What if the performer is all there is?" She heard Rex's chair scrape against the floor, felt his presence behind her before his hands settled on her shoulders. "That's the fear talking. The real you, the woman I married, is stronger and more interesting than any stage persona. But you've got to give her room to exist." Reba turned to face him, and for the first time in months, really looked at her husband. There were new lines around his eyes, gray hairs she didn't remember. When had those appeared? What else had she missed while she was busy being a star? "I'm going to turn down the extension," she said suddenly. The decision crystallized even as she spoke it. "I'll finish the current tour dates through December, and then I'm taking time off. Real time. At least 3 months." Rex's eyes widened. "Are you sure? I don't want you to resent me for this later." "I won't. Because this isn't about you making me choose. This is about me choosing us. Choosing the life I actually want, instead of the one I've been defaulting into. Reba cupped his face in her hands. I've spent 40 years building a career. I think it can survive me taking a break to rebuild my marriage. And what about after the 3 months? Rex asked. What happens when the next opportunity comes along? We figure it out together. Make decisions together instead of me just assuming you'll be okay with whatever I choose. Reba leaned her forehead against his. I want you to come to shows with me sometimes. Not everyone, but enough that we're sharing that part of my life instead of it being this separate thing that takes me away from you. I want your input on my schedule. I want to plan our life together, not just fit you into the margins of my calendar. I'd like that, Rex said softly. I've missed you, Red. Even when you were home, I missed you because your mind was always somewhere else. I know, and I'm sorry. I got so caught up in being who everyone else needed that I forgot to be who you needed, who I needed. She pulled back slightly, looking up at him. But I'm here now, fully here, and I'm committed to staying here, even when it's hard. Rex kissed her then, and it felt like coming home in a way that the house itself hadn't. When they broke apart, he was smiling, a real smile that reached his eyes. So, what happens now? He asked. Now we have that breakfast I mentioned. And then maybe we spend tomorrow doing absolutely nothing productive. Just being together. Reba glanced at the clock. It was nearly 2 in the morning. Okay, so breakfast can wait a few hours. But the point stands. They moved to the living room, settling on the couch together. Rex pulled a blanket over them both, and Reba curled into his side, her head on his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong. Tell me about your projects, she said. The ones you've been working on while I've been gone. I want to know what I've been missing. And so Rex talked, telling her about the film he'd been consulting on, the script he'd been reading, the ideas he'd been developing. Reba listened, really listened, asking questions and engaging with the details. She realized how long it had been since she'd shown genuine interest in his work, in the things that mattered to him outside of their relationship. As the conversation flowed, moving from his projects to memories of their early days together to plans for the future, Reba felt something shift. The distance that had been growing between them began to shrink. It wouldn't disappear overnight. 3 months of neglect couldn't be undone in one conversation. But this was a start. I love you, she said, interrupting his story about a particularly difficult actor. I know I haven't been showing it very well lately, but I do. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm going to do better. I promise. I love you too, Rex replied, kissing the top of her head. And I'm going to hold you to that promise. Both of us need to do better at this. Both of us? I could have spoken up sooner. Could have told you months ago how I was feeling instead of just quietly pulling away. Rex's arms tightened around her. I'm guilty of expecting you to read my mind, of thinking you should just know what I needed without me having to say it. That's not fair either. So, we both commit to better communication, Reba said, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just holding each other. Outside, the night was giving way to the first hints of dawn. Reba watched the sky lighten through the window, feeling something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. Her phone buzzed in her purse, probably Jennifer checking in, or the label sending another email about the tour extension. She didn't move to check it. Whatever it was could wait. Right now, this moment with Rex was the only thing that mattered. I should call Jennifer in the morning, Reba said eventually. Tell her about my decision before she hears it from someone else. What do you think she'll say? She'll support it. Jennifer's been watching us struggle too. She made a comment tonight about wanting to be invited to our second wedding. Reba smiled. Like we'd need to remarry, just because we figured out how to actually stay married. We could renew our vows anyway, Rex suggested. Make it a celebration of choosing each other again. Consciously this time, knowing what we're really committing to. The idea appealed to Reba more than she expected. I'd like that. Something small and private, just us and the people who matter most. So the opposite of a Reba McEntire event, Rex teased gently. Exactly. Just Reba and Rex, making promises to each other that we actually intend to keep this time. She sat up, looking at him seriously. I mean it, Rex. Things are going to be different. I'm going to be different. I believe you, he said. And I'm going to be different too. We're going to figure this out together. As dawn broke fully over Nashville, Reba and Rex sat together on their couch, making plans and sharing dreams and rebuilding the foundation they'd let crack. It wasn't a perfect solution, and Reba knew there would be hard days ahead. But for the first time in months, she felt hopeful. The career would still be there. The music would still matter. But so would this quiet morning with her husband, this choice to prioritize love over ambition, this decision to live her life instead of just performing it. And that, Reba realized, was what success really looked like. The morning sun was fully up by the time Reba and Rex finally moved from the couch to the kitchen. Rex made scrambled eggs while Reba brewed fresh coffee, and they worked together in comfortable silence, the kind that only came from years of knowing each other's rhythms. I forgot how much I missed this, Reba said, setting plates on the table. Just being domestic together, making breakfast without rushing to a sound check or interview. We should do it more often, Rex replied, sliding eggs onto her plate. Radical concept, I know. They ate slowly, savoring both the food and the time. Reba's phone continued buzzing periodically in the other room, but she ignored it. Whatever fires needed putting out could wait until after breakfast. Finally, as they were clearing the dishes, Rex asked, "When are you going to call Jennifer?" "Soon. But first, I want to be completely clear on what I'm proposing." Reba dried a plate, thinking through the logistics. "I finish the current tour, which ends December 20th. Then I take off January through March. 3 full months. No performances, no recording sessions, no promotional tours. Just time at home with you. And after March, we reassess. Maybe I do a limited number of shows, carefully selected. Maybe I focus more on recording than touring. Maybe I take on a residency somewhere so I'm not constantly on the road." She set the plate in the cabinet. "The point is, we make those decisions together, based on what works for our life, not just my career." Rex nodded, a smile playing at his lips. "I like the sound of our life." "Me too." Reba kissed his cheek. "Okay, I'm going to call Jennifer now. Wish me luck." "You don't need luck. You need conviction, and you've got that." Reba retrieved her phone from her purse and settled into the home office, a room she'd barely used since they'd bought the house. The walls were lined with platinum albums and awards, physical reminders of decades of success. She stared at them for a moment, then turned her chair to face the window instead. The view of their backyard, with its garden and pool and the patio where she'd imagined hosting family barbecues, seemed more important than any gold record. She dialed Jennifer's number. Her manager answered on the second ring, voice already alert despite the early hour. "Good morning. I was starting to worry when you didn't respond to any of my messages last night. Sorry about that. Rex and I needed to talk without interruptions." Reba took a breath. "And we made some decisions that I need to discuss with you." "I'm listening." Jennifer's tone was professional but warm, the voice of someone who was friend first and business associate second. I'm turning down the tour extension. After the December 20th show in Dallas, I'm taking 3 months off. Minimum. There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Jennifer spoke again, her voice was carefully neutral. Can I ask what brought this on? Or should I just start making the necessary calls? You can ask, and I'll tell you. This is about saving my marriage, about recognizing that I've been prioritizing wrong and fixing it before it's too late. Reba's voice was steady. Sure. I need you to understand that this isn't a rash decision made at 2 in the morning. This is me finally listening to what my gut has been telling me for months. I understand. And for what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. Jennifer's professional mask dropped slightly. I've been watching you burn yourself out, Red. And I've been watching your relationship with Rex strain under the pressure. I'm glad you're taking action before something breaks permanently. The label's not going to be happy. The label will survive. They've been in business for 70 years. They'll figure out how to handle one artist taking a sabbatical. Jennifer's typing could be heard in the background, probably already making notes. What do you want me to tell them? That I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I need to prioritize my personal life right now. That I'm committed to fulfilling my existing contractual obligations, but I'm not taking on new commitments until I'm ready. And that when I do come back, I want more control over my schedule. More control how? Reba had been thinking about this all morning. No more back-to-back tours. No more promotion schedules that have me away from home for weeks at a time. I want to be able to say no to things without it being a negotiation. And I want final approval on anything that affects my personal time. That's going to be a significant shift in how you've operated your career, Jennifer said carefully. I know, but I'm 59 years old. I've spent 4 decades building this career, and it's cost me 2 marriages already. I'm not losing a 3rd one because I can't figure out how to set boundaries. Reba's voice firmed. I love what I do. I love performing and recording and connecting with fans. But I also love Rex, and I love having a life outside the spotlight. Those things don't have to be mutually exclusive. No, they don't. Jennifer's support was evident in her tone. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'll call the label this morning and give them your decision about the tour extension. I'll frame it as you needing time for personal and creative renewal, which is true. Then I'll set up a meeting for when you're ready to discuss the parameters of future work. Thank you, Jennifer, for understanding and for having my back on this. Always. That's what managers who are actually friends do. A pause. How's Rex taking all this? He's relieved, and so am I. Reba glanced out the window to see Rex in the backyard, checking on the garden they'd planted last spring, but she'd barely seen bloom. We're going to renew our vows. Something small and private. Just a recommitment to each other. I love that. When? Sometime in the next few months. We haven't figured out the details yet. After hanging up with Jennifer, Reba made 2 more calls. The first was to Daniel Crawford, her producer. Morning, Reba, Daniel answered, sounding surprised. Didn't expect to hear from you this early, especially after last night's performance. You should be sleeping in. I've got too much on my mind for sleeping. Reba explained her decision about the tour extension and the sabbatical. But I want to talk to you about what this means for the album we've been working on. What do you want it to mean? I want to finish it, but on a different timeline. No more rushing to meet arbitrary deadlines. I want to make an album that actually means something, not just another collection of singles to promote on tour. Daniel was quiet for a moment. You know what? I've been hoping you'd say something like this for years. The best work you've ever done has been when you had the time and space to really dig into the songs, when you weren't just churning out content to feed the machine. So you're okay with pushing back the release date? More than okay. I've got some songs I've been saving for when you were ready to make a real album, instead of just a commercial one. Let's use this time to create something that'll still matter 20 years from now." The enthusiasm in Daniel's voice made Reba smile. "That's exactly what I want. Thank you for getting it." Her final call was to Bobby Carlson. The guitarist answered with his characteristic cheerfulness. "Hey, boss, great show last night. You had everyone in tears with that rendition of 'Consider Me Gone.'" "Thanks, Bobby. Listen, I need to tell you about some changes that are coming." Reba outlined her plans, including the end of the current tour and the sabbatical. Bobby listened without interrupting, then said, "Good for you. Seriously. I meant what I said backstage yesterday. We want you to be happy, not just successful. And if taking time off is what you need, then we'll all support that. I appreciate it. And Bobby, thank you for being brave enough to ask me if I was okay yesterday. That conversation helped me realize I needed to make changes before it was too late. That's what friends do, and that's what we are, right? Not just employer and employee, but actual friends." "Absolutely." Reba felt warmth spread through her chest. "I'm lucky to have people like you in my life." After the calls, Reba sat in the office for a few more minutes, processing what she'd just set in motion. She'd turned down a major opportunity, committed to stepping back from the career that had defined her for decades, and put herself on a path that was uncertain but felt right. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Label called back already. They're not happy, but they understand. Meeting scheduled for January to discuss future plans. You're officially free until you decide otherwise. Reba read the message twice, letting the reality sink in. She was free. For the first time in 4 decades, she had complete control over her schedule for the next 3 months. The relief was almost overwhelming. She found Rex still in the backyard, now sitting on the patio with a book. He looked up as she approached, setting the book aside. "How'd it go?" he asked. "It's done. I'm officially on sabbatical starting December 21st. Reba sat down next to him, taking his hand. Jennifer's handling the label, Daniel's excited about taking more time with the album, and Bobby supports the decision. It's all happening. "How do you feel?" Reba considered the question. "Scared? Excited? Relieved? Like I just stepped off a speeding train, and I'm not sure if I'm going to fall or fly." "What if you do neither?" Rex suggested. "What if you just walk? At a normal pace, like a normal person, doing normal things?" The idea was so simple, it was almost radical. Reba laughed. "That sounds perfect. So what do normal people do on a Tuesday morning?" "Well, I was thinking we could go to the farmer's market, buy some fresh vegetables, maybe some flowers for the house. Then come home and I'll make you lunch. This afternoon, if you want, we could work in the garden together. Maybe plant some bulbs for spring. That sounds like the best day I've had in months." Reba leaned her head on his shoulder. "Can we do this every Tuesday? Just have a day that's completely ordinary and completely ours. We can do this every day if you want. That's the point of the sabbatical, right? To remember how to just be together?" They sat in comfortable silence, watching birds flit around the garden. Reba thought about all the Tuesdays she'd missed over the years, all the ordinary moments she'd sacrificed for extraordinary ones. The extraordinary moments had their place. She wasn't ready to give up performing entirely. But these ordinary moments, she realized, were what made a life worth living. "I want to tell the fans," she said suddenly, "about the sabbatical, about why I'm doing it. I don't want them to think I'm abandoning them or that something's wrong. What will you say? The truth, that I'm taking time to invest in my personal life, that I'll be back, but I'm taking a break to make sure I'm bringing my whole self to the music, not just the parts of me that haven't been exhausted by trying to do everything at once." Rex nodded. "They'll understand. Real fans want you to be healthy and happy, not burned out and resentful. That afternoon, after their trip to the farmer's market, where Reba delighted in being just another customer browsing vegetables, she sat down and wrote a post for her social media accounts. "Dear friends and fans," she began, "I've got some news to share with you. After I complete my current tour in December, I'm going to be taking some time off. Not because anything's wrong, but because I want to make sure everything stays right. For 40 years, you've supported me through highs and lows, hits and misses, good times and hard times. You've given me the gift of a career I love, and I'm more grateful for that than I can ever express. But I've realized recently that I've been so focused on my career that I've neglected other important parts of my life. Specifically, my relationship with my husband Rex. I married a wonderful man who deserves more than just the leftovers of my time and energy. He deserves a wife who's fully present, who makes him a priority, who builds a life with him instead of just fitting him into the margins of her schedule. So, I'm taking 3 months off to do exactly that. To be a wife, to be a person, to remember who Reba is when she's not on stage. And when I come back, I'll be bringing my whole heart to the music. Not just the parts that aren't exhausted from trying to do everything at once. I'm not disappearing. I'll still be around, still be creating music, still be the person you've supported all these years. I'm just going to be doing it in a more sustainable way, with better boundaries and healthier priorities. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for your continued support, and thank you for caring about me as a person, not just as a performer. I'll see you in 2026, refreshed and ready to give you the best version of myself. With love and gratitude, Reba." She showed the draft to Rex, who read it carefully before nodding. It's honest and vulnerable. That's what people will respond to. Should I mention the vow renewal? Maybe keep that private for now. Let people focus on the sabbatical message first. Rex handed back her phone. "But it's your call." Reba decided he was right and posted the message without the vow renewal mention. Within minutes, the comments started flooding in. To her surprise and relief, the overwhelming response was supportive. "Take all the time you need. We'll be here when you get back. This is so brave and honest. Thank you for showing us that it's okay to prioritize our relationships. Your marriage is more important than any tour. We love you and support you." There were a few negative comments. People disappointed about canceled shows or accusing her of being unprofessional, but they were vastly outnumbered by messages of love and support. Jennifer called an hour later. "Have you seen the response?" "I have. It's overwhelming. It's also generating incredible press. The narrative of a major star choosing her marriage over her career is resonating with people. You're trending on 3 platforms." Jennifer paused. "I know that's not why you did it, but it's not hurting your brand either." "Good to know my personal growth is on brand," Reba said wryly. "That's not what I meant. I just wanted you to know that being authentic about your choices isn't going to hurt your career. If anything, it's making people love you more." After they hung up, Reba spent the rest of the afternoon with Rex, planting bulbs in the garden as he'd suggested. Her knees got dirty, her hands got muddy, and she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt so content. This was living, not performing life, but actually living it. That evening, as they cooked dinner together, a simple pasta dish with vegetables from the farmer's market, Reba caught Rex watching her with a soft expression. "What?" she asked, smiling. "I'm just remembering why I fell in love with you. Not Reba McEntire, the star, but Reba, the woman who gets excited about finding the perfect tomato at the market, who sings while she chops onions, who isn't afraid to get dirt under her fingernails. I forgot that woman existed for a while," Reba admitted, "but I'm finding her again. With your help, "We're finding each other again," Rex corrected. "Both of us lost our way a little. We're just finding our way back." The next few weeks passed in a blur of final tour dates and careful preparation. Reba performed with renewed energy, each show feeling more meaningful now that she knew she was working towards something, rather than just running on a hamster wheel. She noticed details she'd been missing: the joy on fans' faces, the expertise of her band members, the way Daniel's production made each song shine. At the final show in Dallas on December 20th, Reba stood on stage and looked out at the crowd one last time before her sabbatical. The venue was packed, the energy electric. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she said as the show wound down. "As many of you know, this is my last show for a while. I'm taking some time off to focus on my personal life, to be the wife my husband deserves, to be the person I want to be off stage as well as on." The crowd applauded, and someone shouted, "We love you, Reba." "I love you too. All of you. And that's why I want to be honest with you about something." She paused, feeling the words gather in her chest. "For too long, I've been measuring my worth by my work, by album sales and awards and sold-out shows, and those things are wonderful. Don't get me wrong, but they're not everything. They're not even the most important things. The most important thing is having people in your life who love you for who you are, not what you've accomplished. Who see your heart, not just your resume. And I'm blessed to have a husband who's been patient with me while I figured that out." She looked off stage to where Rex stood in the wings, watching her with pride in his eyes. "So this sabbatical isn't about walking away from you or from music. It's about walking toward the life I want to have, the person I want to be. And when I come back, I'll be better for it. More present, more grateful, more whole." The applause was thunderous. Reba finished the show with "Fancy," putting everything she had into the performance. When the final notes rang out, she took her bow and walked off stage into Rex's waiting arms. "You ready to go home?" he asked. "More than ready," she replied. "Let's start our real life." 3 weeks into her sabbatical, Reba woke up without an alarm for the 15th consecutive day. Sunlight streamed through the bedroom curtains, and she could smell coffee brewing downstairs. Rex's side of the bed was already empty, but she could hear him moving around in the kitchen. She stretched, feeling genuinely rested for the first time in years. No sound check to rush to, no interview scheduled, no promotional appearances or meet and greets. Just a day stretching out before her, full of possibility and absolutely nothing urgent. Pulling on her robe, Reba padded downstairs to find Rex at the stove, making pancakes. The radio played softly in the background, not country music, but NPR discussing the latest political developments. It felt wonderfully, refreshingly normal. "Good morning, beautiful," Rex said, flipping a pancake expertly. "How'd you sleep?" Like someone who doesn't have to be anywhere or do anything today. Reba poured herself coffee and kissed his cheek. "What's the plan?" "Well, we've got that meeting with the wedding planner at 2, but otherwise, I thought we could be completely unproductive." He slid pancakes onto 2 plates. "Maybe watch that movie you've been wanting to see. Take a walk around the neighborhood. Do absolutely nothing important." They'd been living like this for 3 weeks, and Reba still marveled at how revolutionary doing nothing felt. The first week had been hard. She'd felt guilty for not working, anxious about missing opportunities, convinced that taking time off would somehow derail her entire career. But gradually, as the days passed and the sky didn't fall, she'd started to relax into the rhythm of ordinary life. They'd established new routines: morning coffee together, Rex reading while Reba journaled, afternoon walks, cooking dinner side by side, evenings spent talking or watching movies, or just being in the same room doing separate things. Simple moments that added up to a life. Jennifer checked in weekly, but didn't pressure her about work. Daniel sent occasional texts about song ideas, but didn't push for studio time. The label had accepted her decision with more grace than she'd expected, and the industry seemed content to let her be. The meeting with the wedding planner was at a small cafe in East Nashville. Angela Peterson was a woman in her mid-40s who specialized in intimate ceremonies, exactly what Reba and Rex wanted for their vow renewal. "So, tell me about your vision," Angela said, pulling out a leather-bound notebook. "What do you want this day to feel like?" Reba and Rex exchanged glances. They'd been talking about this for weeks, refining their ideas. "Private," Reba said. "Just us and maybe 15 close friends and family. Nothing that feels like a performance or a production." "Meaningful," Rex added. "We want vows that actually reflect where we are now, not generic promises. We want it to feel like a real recommitment, not just a party." Angela nodded, taking notes. "Location?" "Here," Reba said firmly. "In our backyard. That garden we've been working on together. That feels like the right place." "And timing?" "Early March," Rex said. "After Reba's sabbatical officially ends, but before she goes back to work. We want this to be the bridge between her time off and returning to her career. A celebration of the life we've built, and a commitment to maintaining it." Angela smiled. "I love it. It's authentic and intentional, which is what makes ceremonies truly memorable. Let's talk about specifics." They spent the next hour discussing details: flowers, food, music, timing. Angela had suggestions that felt right, respecting Reba's public profile while honoring their desire for privacy. "One thing to consider," Angela said as they wrapped up, "is whether you want any media presence. Even a small ceremony with Reba McEntire is going to generate interest." "No media," Reba said immediately. "If we release anything afterward, it'll be a single photo that I choose, with a simple statement. But the day itself belongs to us." "Perfect. I'll make sure security is tight so you can actually relax and be present." After Angela left, Reba and Rex walked through their neighborhood, hand in hand. It was a cold January day, but the sun was bright and the air felt crisp and clean. "Do you think your family will come?" Rex asked. "I hope so. I called my sister last week and told her about it. She was thrilled. Said she'd been worried about us, but didn't want to interfere." Reba squeezed his hand. "What about your family?" "My brother's already planning his trip. Said it was about time I did something to deserve you." Rex grinned. "He's not wrong." They walked in comfortable silence for a few blocks, waving to neighbors who'd grown used to seeing them out together. One elderly woman, Patricia Holmes, called out from her porch. "Reba! Rex! How are you two doing?" They crossed the street to chat with her. Patricia was in her 70s, a retired teacher who'd lived in the neighborhood for 40 years. She'd been one of the first people to welcome them when they'd moved in, bringing over homemade cookies and neighborhood gossip. "We're wonderful, Patricia. How are you?" Reba asked. "Can't complain, though my arthritis is acting up with this cold weather." Patricia studied them both with sharp eyes. "You two look happy, really happy. Whatever you've been doing these past few weeks, keep doing it." "That's the plan," Rex said warmly. As they continued their walk, Reba reflected on how Patricia's words would have stung a few months ago. Back then, she'd been maintaining appearances, pretending everything was fine while her marriage slowly eroded. Now, there was nothing to pretend. She was happy, and it showed. That evening, as they prepared dinner, Reba's phone rang. It was Daniel Crawford. "Hey, I know you're on sabbatical and I promised not to bug you about work, but I've got something I need to run by you." "What's up?" I finished a song last night. Wrote it in about 2 hours, just poured out of me. And it's about, well, it's about what you're going through. The whole choosing love over career thing. But I don't want to record it without your blessing, since it's clearly inspired by your story." Reba felt a flutter of interest, the first pull toward work she'd felt since starting her sabbatical. "Can you send it to me?" "Already did. Just emailed you a voice memo of me playing it." After hanging up, Reba found the email and listened to the recording. Daniel's rough voice carried the melody, his guitar providing simple accompaniment. But the lyrics hit her right in the chest. "I used to measure my worth in sold-out shows, in platinum records, and everybody knows. But late at night, when the spotlight fades to black, I realized fame can't hold you, and love can't take you back. So I'm choosing you over all the bright lights, trading the stage for your arms on quiet nights. They say I'm crazy for stepping away. But baby, you're worth more than anything fame could pay." The song continued, each verse capturing the journey she'd been on, the fear, the courage, the joy of choosing differently. By the time it ended, Reba had tears streaming down her face. Rex appeared in the doorway. "You okay?" "Listen to this," she said, replaying the recording. Rex listened silently, then pulled her into a hug. "That's beautiful. That's your story. Daniel wants to record it, but he wanted my permission first." Reba wiped her eyes. "What do you think?" "I think that song could help a lot of people who are struggling with the same thing. If you're comfortable with your story being out there like that, he should record it." Reba called Daniel back. "Record it. It's perfect. And I think it needs to be heard. Thank you. And Reba, when you're ready to come back, I want you to sing it. I'll record my version, but that song belongs in your voice." "We'll see," Reba said, but she was smiling. The thought of recording again didn't fill her with dread or obligation. It filled her with gentle anticipation, the way it used to before music became just another task on her endless to-do list. February arrived with warmer weather and the first signs of spring. The bulbs Reba and Rex had planted in the fall began pushing up through the soil, promising blooms for their vow renewal ceremony. Reba spent hours in the garden, finding a peace in the physical work that she'd never found in hotel rooms or tour buses. She'd started writing again, not songs exactly, but thoughts and observations. Reflections on what she was learning about herself, about marriage, about success, and what it really meant. Jennifer had suggested she might turn these writings into a book someday, but Reba wasn't ready to think that far ahead. Right now, she was just writing for herself, processing her transformation. One afternoon, she received an unexpected visitor. Bobby Carlson called to say he was in Nashville and wondered if he could stop by. "Of course," Reba said. "Come for dinner. Rex is making his famous lasagna." Bobby arrived that evening with a bottle of wine and his usual easy smile. But as they sat down to eat, Reba could tell he had something on his mind. "So," he said, after they'd made small talk through the first course, "I wanted to tell you both something, and I wanted to do it in person." "Sounds serious," Rex said. "Not bad serious, good serious." Bobby set down his fork. "I've been watching what you two have been doing. The sabbatical, the conscious choice to prioritize your relationship, and it's inspired me. I reached out to my ex-wife, Emily, a few weeks ago, just to talk, to apologize for how I'd prioritized my career over our marriage." "How did she react?" Reba asked. She was surprised but open. "We've been talking, really talking, for the first time in years. And..." Bobby paused, emotion crossing his face. "We're going to try again. Take it slow, do it right this time. I'm cutting back on touring, focusing more on session work so I can be home more." Reba reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Bobby, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. I wouldn't have had the courage to do it if I hadn't seen you make the same choice. You showed me that it's possible to have both, the career and the relationship, if you're willing to set boundaries and stick to them. It's not easy," Rex cautioned. "There are days when the old patterns try to creep back in, but it's worth the effort." They spent the rest of the evening talking about relationships and balance, about the industry's expectations versus personal needs, about the courage it took to choose differently. By the time Bobby left, Reba felt even more certain that her decision had been right, not just for her and Rex, but as an example of a different way to navigate success. As March approached, preparations for the vow renewal intensified. Reba and Rex had written their vows separately, agreeing not to share them until the ceremony. Angela had everything else coordinated: the small tent in case of rain, the caterer, the flowers, the acoustic musician who would play during the ceremony. The guest list was exactly what they wanted. Reba's sister Susie with her husband, Rex's brother Jake and his wife, Jennifer, Daniel, Bobby and Emily, who were cautiously dating again, Rachel Montgomery, and a handful of other close friends who'd supported them through their relationship. 15 people total. Small enough to feel intimate, but large enough to celebrate with people they loved. The morning of the ceremony, Reba woke early. The weather was perfect, sunny and mild, with a light breeze carrying the scent of the flowering bulbs. She spent the morning getting ready with Susie's help, choosing a simple cream-colored dress that felt more like her than any of the elaborate gowns she'd worn on stage. "You look beautiful," Susie said, fastening a delicate necklace around Reba's neck. "But more than that, you look happy. Really, truly happy." "I am. I feel like I've finally figured out what matters." Reba studied herself in the mirror. At 59, she had lines around her eyes and silver threading through her red hair. But she looked vibrant and alive in a way that had nothing to do with makeup or lighting. Downstairs, Rex was greeting guests as they arrived. Reba watched from the bedroom window as people she loved gathered in her backyard, the tense white fabric glowing in the afternoon sun. This was her community, her real community. Not the massive crowds who came to her shows, but the people who knew her heart. At 3 o'clock, Angela came to get her. "Ready?" "More than ready." Reba walked downstairs and through the French doors to the backyard. A simple aisle had been created between the rows of chairs, lined with the flowers from her garden. At the end of the aisle stood Rex, looking handsome in a dark suit, his eyes bright with emotion. There was no music as she walked toward him, just the sound of birds and the rustle of leaves. It was perfect. When she reached him, Rex took her hands in his. Angela nodded to begin. "We're gathered here today," Angela said, "not for a wedding, but for a recommitment." Reba and Rex have been married for 3 years, but they've chosen to stand before their loved ones today and make new promises. Promises rooted in the wisdom they've gained, the mistakes they've made, and the love that's brought them through. She gestured to Rex. "Rex, your vows." Rex took a breath, his voice steady but emotional. "Reba, 3 years ago, I promised to love you for better or worse. But I don't think either of us really knew what that meant. We thought love was enough, that if we loved each other, everything else would just work out. These past months have taught me that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice we make every day. Sometimes it's an easy choice, and sometimes it's a hard one. But it's always a choice worth making. Today, I promise to choose you. Every day, in every decision, I promise to consider how it affects us, not just me. I promise to speak up when I'm hurting instead of pulling away. I promise to celebrate your success without resenting the demands it makes. And I promise to remind you, whenever you need it, that you are more than your achievements. You are the woman I love, the partner I respect, the person I want beside me for the rest of my life." Reba's eyes were wet. She squeezed his hands, then turned to her own vows. "Rex, I've spent my whole life performing, playing roles, being what people expected, giving audiences what they wanted. But with you, I don't have to perform. I can just be Reba, flawed and messy and still figuring things out. These past months have shown me that I was in danger of losing the best thing in my life because I was too busy chasing the next opportunity. I was measuring my worth by my work instead of by my relationships, and I almost lost you because of it. Today, I promise to never let my career become more important than our relationship again. I promise to set boundaries that protect our time together. I promise to show up fully when I'm with you, not just be physically present while mentally somewhere else. And I promise to keep choosing us, even when the industry or my ambitions try to pull me away. You deserve a wife who sees you as her priority, not her backup plan. And that's who I'm committed to being, today and every day forward." Angela smiled. "Rex and Reba, you've both made beautiful promises to each other. The rings you already wear symbolize your original commitment. Today, you're not exchanging new rings, but renewing the meaning of the ones you have. Rex, take Reba's hand." Rex lifted Reba's left hand, his thumb brushing over her wedding ring. "This ring represents not just the day we got married, but every day since. Every choice to stay, every moment of forgiveness, every act of love. Today, I renew its meaning, promising to honor what it represents for the rest of our lives." Angela turned to Reba. "Reba, take Rex's hand." Reba repeated the gesture, holding Rex's hand and looking at his ring. "This ring represents my promise to you, a promise I've honored imperfectly but always sincerely. Today, I renew that promise with deeper understanding and stronger commitment. Then, by the power vested in me, and more importantly, by the power you've vested in each other through these vows, I declare you still married, and more committed than ever. Rex, you may kiss your wife." Rex pulled Reba close and kissed her, and their small gathering erupted in applause. When they broke apart, both had tears on their faces, but they were smiling wider than they had in months. The reception that followed was exactly what they'd wanted: intimate and joyful. Bobby brought out his guitar and led an impromptu sing-along. Daniel cornered Reba and Rex, insisting they listen to the final version of his song, "Choosing You," which had been professionally recorded and was already generating buzz. "It's going to be a hit," Daniel said confidently. "And when you're ready to record your version, it'll be even bigger." "Maybe," Reba said. "Right now, I'm just enjoying being here." As evening fell, string lights came on in the trees, casting a warm glow over the backyard. Reba stood with Rex's arm around her waist, watching their friends laugh and talk and celebrate. "This is what I want my life to look like," she said quietly. "Real moments, with real people who matter." "You can have this," Rex replied. "And the career. They don't have to be mutually exclusive." "I know, but the career has to fit into this, not the other way around." Reba leaned into him. "Thank you for being patient with me while I figured that out. Thank you for doing the work to figure it out. A lot of people wouldn't have. They would have just kept going until everything broke." Later that night, after all the guests had left and the caterers had cleaned up, Reba and Rex sat together on the patio. The garden glowed with solar lights they'd installed, and the scent of jasmine hung in the air. "So," Rex said, "your sabbatical officially ends next week. Have you thought about what comes next?" "I have. I'm ready to start making music again, but on my terms. Limited tour dates, carefully chosen, more focus on recording and less on promoting. And you come with me to at least half the shows. Not to work, just to be there. To make it something we share instead of something that separates us. I'd like that. Rex pulled her closer. What about Daniel's offer? Are you going to record Choosing You? Reba smiled. Yeah, I think I am. That song tells the truth about where I've been and where I'm going. It feels right to be the one to sing it. They sat in comfortable silence, both thinking about the journey they'd been on, the crisis that had brought them to the edge, the courage to pull back and reassess, the work of rebuilding. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. I love you, Reba said, breaking the silence. I love you too, and I'm proud of you for making the hard choices. We made them together. As March turned into April, Reba did return to work, but everything was different. She recorded Choosing You with Daniel, pouring all her experience and emotion into the performance. The song was released in May and immediately resonated with listeners, climbing the charts and sparking conversations about work-life balance, relationship priorities, and the courage to choose differently. But more importantly than the song's success was how Reba structured her return. She accepted a limited number of performance dates, one weekend a month through the summer, carefully spaced to allow for plenty of time at home. She turned down lucrative opportunities that would have required extended travel. She set firm boundaries about her availability and stuck to them, even when it meant disappointing people. And Rex came with her to half the shows, just as they'd planned. He wasn't working. He was simply there, a presence in the wings, reminding her of what mattered most. On the nights he couldn't come, Reba missed him, but didn't resent him. She'd learned the difference between healthy independence and isolating self-sufficiency. The industry adjusted to her new boundaries. Some opportunities passed her by, going to other artists who were willing to give more. But Reba found she didn't mind. She was no longer measuring success by how much she could do, or how many people wanted her. She was measuring it by how whole she felt, how present she was in her own life, how strong her relationship remained. In interviews, when asked about her sabbatical and her changed approach to her career, Reba was honest. I almost lost my marriage because I couldn't figure out how to balance success and love. Taking that time off saved my relationship, and it saved me. I'm not the same person I was a year ago, and I don't want to be. I like who I'm becoming better. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Fans appreciated her vulnerability. Other artists, especially women, reached out to share their own struggles with balance. Reba found herself becoming an advocate for sustainable career practices, for mental health, for the idea that you could be successful without sacrificing everything else that mattered. 1 year after her sabbatical began, Reba and Rex celebrated their 4th anniversary. They returned to the backyard where they'd renewed their vows, sharing a quiet dinner under the stars. A year ago, I didn't know if we'd make it to this anniversary, Rex admitted. I know. I was scared, too. Reba took his hand across the table. But we did the work. We made the hard choices. And look where we are now. Where are we? Happy? Actually, genuinely happy. Not performing happiness or pretending everything's fine, but really happy. Reba smiled. And I have something to tell you. I got offered a residency in Las Vegas. 3 months, 24 shows total, all on weekends. It would mean we could be based there together, have a routine, not be constantly traveling. What did you say? I said I needed to discuss it with my husband first, that I don't make career decisions without considering how they affect both of us. Reba searched his face. What do you think? Rex considered it. Would it make you happy? Not just professionally, but actually Happy? I think so. I'd get to perform regularly but also have a stable home base. We could explore a new city together. Make it an adventure instead of an obligation. Then let's do it. Together. As they cleared their dishes and moved inside, Reba felt a deep sense of contentment. She hadn't given up her career. She'd simply redefined success. She was still Reba McEntire, country music legend. But she was also just Reba, a woman who'd learned that love required as much courage and commitment as any career. The lights of Nashville glittered in the distance as Reba and Rex settled onto their couch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. Outside, the garden they'd planted together bloomed in the warm spring night. Inside, the life they'd fought to save flourished. "No regrets?" Rex asked quietly. "None. Well, maybe one. I wish I'd figured this out sooner. Saved us both some pain. We figured it out when we needed to. That's what matters." Rex kissed the top of her head. "And we'll keep figuring it out day by day, choice by choice. Together," Reba said. "Always together." And in that moment, with the man she loved beside her and a future they would build together stretching out before them, Reba McEntire knew she had everything that truly mattered. Not the awards or the accolades, not the sold-out shows or the chart-topping hits, but this: love, partnership, presence, and the courage to keep choosing it all over again. The story that had started with crisis and distance had transformed into one of hope and reconnection. And the most powerful declaration of love Reba had ever made wasn't spoken on a stage to thousands of fans. It was lived out every day, in the quiet choices to prioritize her marriage, in the boundaries she maintained, in the life she and Rex built together. That was the real story. That was what success looked like when you measured it by what actually mattered.